We got two major developments to kick off this Thursday morning on Legal AF about the Federal Reserve and what it means for our economy. On one hand, we've got Lisa Cook, currently on the Federal Reserve until 2038. She just had her seat, her governor position, affirmed and the firing of her blocked by Judge Gia Cobb in District of Columbia, meaning even though Donald Trump just took an appeal to the District Court of Appeals in D.C., it is likely that Lisa Cobb will participate on the 16th of September next week to set rates for America, at least one of 12 votes. On the very same day, and probably the accelerant was put on their decision-making by the Cobb decision in favor of Lisa Cook, the Senate Finance Committee confirmed in record time, 8 days, the confirmation of a Federal Reserve governor to replace somebody who had been appointed by Joe Biden. It's the pick of Donald Trump. His name is Stephen Mirren. And just to show you how fast that was, normally it takes anywhere between 3 months and a year to get a Federal Reserve governor appointed or confirmed. And Stephen Mirren did it in 8 days. But get this, he's not really leaving his day job in the executive branch in the White House, where he's been just for the last 4 months, the head of the White House Council on Economic Policy. So he's going to stay on as the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors on an unpaid leave, so that when his term is over, because it's going to end at the end of January, because he's taking over for a stub position, a stub term that ends in January, he goes right back to the White House. What happened to the independence of the Federal Reserve? We got a guy who's dual-hatted, two-hatted, 1 foot in the White House and 1 foot at the Federal Reserve. Of course we do. I cover it all right here on Legal AF on Thursday morning. If it's Thursday morning, it must be my examination, my cross-examination of all things Trump and the economy. I'm Michael Popok. Take a minute and hit the free subscribe button. Two events came together in one today, or yesterday, that I want you to know about. First, let's start with Lisa Cook. You've already heard the story. Lisa Cook on the Board of Governors appointed by Joe Biden. One of 7 votes, because there's 7 total members of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve. 7 members. 4 of them have been appointed by Democrats, including Joe Biden, including Lisa Cook. 3 at present, now including Stephen Mirren, have been appointed by Trump, 4-3. Donald Trump doesn't like those odds. He doesn't like minorities. He doesn't like to be in the minority. He wants to flip it 4-3 in his favor. He's been working on Lisa Cook, claiming that she committed some sort of mortgage fraud, which I don't see it. Before she was confirmed to be in this position till 2038. So he's been working and attacking Lisa Cook the way he worked and attacked the chairman, Jay Powell. It got all the way to the courts with a full day hearing. And after 2 weeks of sitting on the order, Gia Cobb ruled that Lisa Cook's due process rights, Fifth Amendment rights against having her property interest in her employment, taken away from her without due process, have been violated by Donald Trump, because he just summarily fired her after a tweet or social media post by Bill Pulte, who's Donald Trump's henchman in the Freddie Mae and Fannie Mac world. And she also said it also violates the Federal Reserve Act, because you can't fire somebody without cause, and something that she may or may not have done before she was confirmed cannot count as cause. That led later in the day to this record-setting, they set the land speed record to confirm Stephen Mirren. Now, here's my problem with Stephen Mirren being confirmed as the third Trumper on the Federal Reserve. Even Stephen Mirren wouldn't be in favor. Even Stephen Mirren would not be in favor of his own appointment. What am I talking about? Because Stephen Mirren was very vocal when members of the Obama administration left the administration after it was over and went on to the Federal Reserve. Here's the quote from Stephen Mirren, and see how this applies to his own circumstances. Irony apparently has been completely lost. Here's what Mirren said. It is impossible to think someone, quote, can go from a highly political operative to politically neutral just because he or she gets a promotion. That's just not how human beings work. I agree. He was critiquing Austin Goolsbee, who had formerly been in the same position, Council of Economic Advisors for Barack Obama, and then got made the president of the Chicago Federal Reserve, and then Vice Chair Lael Brainerd, who got a job as a senior advisor to Biden. She went the other way. The revolving door went the other way. And who was the biggest critic? Stephen Mirren. Well, at least, Mr. Mirren, they didn't keep their day job working as a political operative for the president at the same time that they took the job on the independent Federal Reserve. I mean, why don't you just wear a giant Make America Great hat and shirt on the way into the Federal Reserve? How about that? That may help you. That may, at least we know the enemy's wearing the uniform. So it's just the height of hypocrisy. But of course, they don't care. I mean, what kind of vetting did they do with Stephen Mirren to put him on the Federal Reserve? Did anybody in the Trump administration take a look at his social media post and say, well, maybe we shouldn't put this guy on because he's doing actually worse than what he criticized other people for? This is the MAGA movement. Now, what will it mean in real life for policy and your and my life? That's what I like to get down to in these hot takes. 4-3. But it's not just the 7 members of the Board of Governors that make the decisions about rates. See, that's the only way that the Federal Reserve, I mean, they do some banking regulation, but that's the only way the Federal Reserve can have any impact on the economy. They got the blunt force instrument. It's called rate setting. They set the interest rates, not the interest rates for credit cards and home loans and mortgages directly. They set the intrabank rate that banks charge each other or have to charge each other for the flow of money. And then from there, banks then set at a higher level, 2, 3, 4, 20 points higher. They then set your credit card rate, your student loan rate, your home mortgage rate, home loans, and that's kind of thing. And loans, bank loans, business loans, and all that type of thing. Credit lines, anything that has an interest rate attached to it ultimately comes back down to that original interest rate set by the Federal Reserve. It's now at about 4.25%, 4.5%, something like that. Now, the push for September the 16th, the big meeting that's coming up next week, is to cut the rates. And now it's basically going to happen, not because Donald Trump's attacking Lisa Cook, not because he just put on Stephen Mirren, but because his economy is in the shitter. Sorry, it's so early in the morning for that. His economy is in the trash. The jobs have fallen out the bottom of it. Something that, by the way, one of his own Board of Governor members, Mike Waller, predicted was going to happen. So the economy is in the trash. Don't look at the stock market. That's being driven by AI and by hyper expectations that aren't based in reality or earnings. So you can't look to the stock market for the health of the economy. You look at job and job creation. You look at consumer pricing. You look at wholesale pricing. You look at manufacturing, what's happening in agriculture, what's happening in goods and services. You look at exports. You look at the growth of the economy and the gross domestic product. That's what you look for. And then you look for cracks to see if anything's happening that need immediate assistance. That's where rate setting comes in. So they operate, back to this, how they set the rates. Sorry about that. So there is a committee off of the Federal Reserve that's run by the Federal Reserve called the Federal Open Markets Committee, the FOMC. The FOMC meets every month. It's the 7 members of the Federal Reserve, including Lisa Cook and now Stephen Mirren, along with 5 of the 12 regional banks presidents. They rotate, and they have a vote, and it's by majority. They usually vote unanimously, but sometimes they don't. And so Donald Trump now controls 3 out of 12 votes. But the Board of Governors, the 7, control who's going to be the presidents of the respective regional Federal Reserves, like the one in Philadelphia and Boston, Chicago, the rest. So if he ever gets control by taking out Lisa Cook, Donald Trump gets 4-3, they'll start replacing the presidents of the other Federal Reserves, and they therefore change the composition of the Open Markets Committee, giving him control over rates, which will lead inevitably to hyperinflation and disaster in America. How do I know that? Because the guy that Donald Trump is picking, or probably going to be picking potentially to be the chairman of the Federal Reserve after Jay Powell steps down in May next year, Kevin Hassett, has said, we have to have a completely independent Federal Reserve. Otherwise, inflation will wreck the economy and create suffering for consumers. That's his words, not mine. So I wanted to bring these two stories together on this Thursday morning. So what I think is going to happen is they're going to have to, based on the job numbers, they're going to have to cut the rates, not because he's bashing Lisa Cook, but because they're looking at the economy. And so I think it's going to go down half a point. It may go down half a point the next month too, if it doesn't stabilize the economy. All self-inflicted wounds by Donald Trump. I'm glad I can bring this to you every morning. We do 10 videos a day at the intersection of law and politics and sometimes the global economy right here on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button, and then come over to Legal AF Substack as well, where you can grab all the filings that we talk about, all the court orders, all the information. I do 2 or more Substack lives every day, bringing together 2,000 or 3,000 people, along with some amazing newsmakers. You can only find it on Legal AF Substack. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.